Gil, you are up first. Hello.
Hey Bart, thanks for taking the call.
How's it going, Gil? Now, Gil is, you are the buddy of, are you the buddy? Are you one of the MIT guys as well?
Yeah, I we frequent the New Hampshire and Boston casinos.
Okay, so one of your buddies called in that double board bomb pot PLO hand that went on from Chasers. We actually put that up a few days ago. I don't usually put up any no limit calls because they just don't get that much play, but I like putting the double board up because the whole purpose of this is to drive people to the Crush Live Poker website, and as far as I know, it's the only real training site that does. I do a monthly double board bomb pot training video, so I like to put those up. But this is going to be a no limit hand, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, so where are you playing at? What's the size of the game?
Yeah, so this is played out of Encore Boston Harbor. I'm playing 2-5, and it's I believe it's either eight-handed or nine-handed, one of the two. And
Right.
I'm around 1,050 effective.
And this is a 1,000 cap buy-in. Now, I've given Encore Boston Harbor a lot of shit since moving back. I will say that I believe at 510 they changed it to time, 510 and above, but 2.5 is still, I think it's 10% up to like $10. So one thing I will say, I don't know if you're familiar with this skill, is apparently they took away the promotions, which is good. That extra drop. I think they did that recently.
Yeah, I think they did that along with getting rid of like the free drinks or
Oh,
something.
that's
I've
right.
heard a lot of complaints.
Yeah, they got away. Well, of course, being from California, I'm never used to free drinks. I always thought it was amazing in Vegas, but with high rake in California, you get free food. Now here, you don't get free drinks or free food. So, but those promo drops could kill you, so they got rid of those. So 2.5, it's 1,050 effective, and yeah, I mean nine handed, no limit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I am relatively new to the table. I've been playing for about an hour. I do have a bit of history with the villain, in the sense where she's a middle-aged woman, probably around like 40 years old,
Okay.
and she just saw me blast off three streets, Ace Jack X board as the three better, and I got called down by Queen Jack offsuit, three streets, which so yeah, that happened, and she saw that. Um,
So she might think you are a bluffer.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So anyways, so she had that background, and then that's about it for the background. And then so for the actual hand,
Mhm.
preflop, it folds to the cutoff, and the cutoff limps.
Oh, okay.
The
Interesting.
button raises to 25,
Okay.
and I three bet to 100, and I have ace seven of clubs.
And where are you? In small blind?
Yeah, small blind.
All right, so here in small blind, three bets, 100 with ace of clubs, seven of clubs, cut off limps, button goes to 25. So I'm assuming that you might think that, I don't know who the button is, but you think that maybe because it's a weird setup, the button might be a little bit wider than normal because of this weird cutoff limp. Is that where it's going through
Um,
your head?
I mean, yeah, but also just ace seven of clubs is a pretty good hand that can do a lot of three betting, and I'm not really doing any calling from the small blind, so
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you that you probably should play this as a. I mean, yeah, I mean, for the most part, you should be playing small blind as a three better fold. Not always when it's only two blinds and there's no antes and you're super deep from out of position. It's just you're not really that incentivized to just end. I mean, against a 5x open, you don't really even need to get involved. I mean, whether or not this is profitable or not, it's probably pretty close. I'm not going to be the overly preflop police, but you'd be amazed though that you could just probably fold this out and you wouldn't. It might even be slightly positive. But okay, so you go to 100.
uh-huh. And then cutoff folds, button calls. So I'm heads up with like the middle-aged woman that I was talking about.
Okay, so she is the villain here. So it's probably like 200 ish, maybe a little bit more to the flop, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the flop comes down ace 10 3 all spades.
Ace, 10, 3, spade, spade, spade. So you are in a three bet pot, and it is a monotone board. And obviously, you have an ace here, and there's a lot of draws. I want to take a pause here and just mention that Crush Live Poker is doing a giveaway for 3 months for free, plus a year's worth of Preflop Plus. And if you're interested in getting into the drawing for that, just click on the link in the description down below, and you can do certain things that will get you more entries. I digress, but let's go back here. Ace 10, 3, all spades here with ace 7 of clubs. Okay, 200 in the pot.
Yep. So out of position, I start off with like around the one-third sized C bet. I go 65.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know off the top of my head at optimal what this would necessarily look like on this particular flop. I have no problem with betting. Here's the thing, this is the easiest deviation that I can make from live, is that people bluff less and they call down more. So you can be doing a lot more betting when it's close. I would assume that this flop is probably checked a fair amount with ace 7 of clubs, but I have no problem with the bet at this sizing. So okay, 65. Yep.
And she calls.
So button calls. Now, that does not mean that you're behind, obviously, right? And you call by a 10, you call by any spade, right? Usually above a 10. Maybe even some pocket pairs with a spade in it too. And, once in a while, she might even have a weak ace or something like that. But okay, so now we are looking at about 330. Okay.
Yeah, and then the turn comes the 2 of clubs.
So the turn here is the 2 of clubs. Okay, so it's not a huge, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but sometimes you get a little bit like, oh, how much money am I going to put in this pot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my logic here was that I have a7. It has really good showdown value, but it isn't really strong enough to go like several streets on this board, given that it's like monotone.
Right.
So I decided to start with a check.
Yeah, I would. I mean, if you think you're going to get two, see, here's where I don't think it's terrible. The check here, it's almost more standard. But my take here, and what I like to tell a lot of people in CLP is that you can, if you're going to get 2 streets, and this isn't, I'm not talking about like 2 streets. This isn't like Ace King where it's like, am I going to get 2 or 3 streets here? This is like 2 streets from value for the most part here. So there are hands where you get 2 streets from value, right? Usually like, top pair, weak kicker. And if that's the type of case, then what ends up happening, or I think you actually should get your 2 streets, is flop and turn. So if I was going to try to get 2 streets here, it'd be flop, turn, check, river to try to induce, as opposed to checking now. The other issue that I have here is that the types of hands that you're hoping that she has, like, let's say she has king, queen off with the king of spades. I'm just throwing that out as an example, right? I don't know how many offsuit hands she's defending here to 4x, but I don't know if those hands are going to start bluffing. They might very well just check it through. And then if she just misses, then you don't get that street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So here are checks.
Yeah, I would probably do that if I was in position, but out of position, it's just I don't know, it's tough to get 2 streets like flop and turn, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think it's, okay, so if it goes check, check here and you get a blank, I suppose you can put a value bet out, but again, you lose out on the value from those draws that would have called you on the turn. But okay, so here are checks.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she goes ahead and bets 200.
Interesting. Okay, so button bets 200 here.
And I don't think I can do anything besides call here.
Yeah, I don't think you can release the hand, but it is concerning because, again, from that back description and just sort of live tendencies, I'm seeing a lot of 10x check back. I'm seeing a lot of pairs with spades that aren't aces check back here. If she has offsuit broadways with a spade in it, I even see those check back a lot to see a card. So it's concerning because you don't really beat a better ace here, right? Like if she's got ace queen and she's making a protection bet, you don't beat that. You are getting, close to more than 2.5 to 1, it looks like, here, but I don't like it. Almost to the point where, it seems insane to say like, oh, could you ever just check fold here? Now that does not mean that the flop bet is wrong. This is where people go awry here. The flop bet can be entirely correct. And you could, like I said, personally, I would be doing more betting here on the turn, but it is not incongruent for you to take this flop sizing and then check fold to this sizing with a lot of live node locking. And what I mean by that is making large assumptions on tendencies, which were the ones that I just listed, which are the other pairs are checking back. There aren't a whole lot of offsuit broadways here. So I can even see that. Would I do that in practice? Probably not, but I could actually get on board with it. Sounds like you made the call, and now we're at 750 or 730, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Okay.
River comes the ten of hearts.
So okay, so Rivers 10 of hearts. We'll put that up. What do you think she's betting here that you beat?
Oh
Let me
yeah.
ask you this question.
So at least from what I have seen, people are calling my three bets with all sort of offsuit broadways. So she could be betting here with like king queen spade, king or queen jack one spade, like gutter plus spades that like want me to fold. Or I thought she could be betting like two pair like ace three. Um that, I mean obviously I lose to that, but
Yeah,
I
that's
still don't
trouble.
think
I
it's
was gonna say
yeah,
you don't
I don't
really
think
have
it's
equity to peel to that. I mean,
yeah.
that goes back. I think you've hit what I was talking about, which is interesting that we see this river 10 now. But I mean, let's go back again, thinking about the turn. You know, so it would be okay, and that makes sense for you to call here if you thought that like king queen off, queen jack off were here and played like this, but those make two assumptions that they're defended pre to 4x, right? And that they're also bluffed right now. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Now, now we go to, oh, excuse me, a 10. I thought for some reason it was, excuse me, I thought it was a jack, like a jack would have been probably a bad card for you. It's a 10. Jack being probably the worst because then if she bets again, now you're really screwed, right?
Yeah.
Because
Snap
she's
of
gonna
course.
check back a lot of like those pairing type hands. But okay, so the river comes to 10, so it pairs the board. So it's ace 10 3 deuce 10. I assume hero checks.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And she bets 400.
So button bets 400. Here's the, you know what's funny here is that there's this whole adage, right? Well, the thing, Fifth Street Chicken, they, crush that poker thing, where Fifth Street Chicken is a situation where you're like, well, I'm going to make it look like I'm calling down on the turn. The best example I can give a lot of times with Fifth Street Chicken is like when you have two pair from out of position, you bet and get raised. Like having like middle two pair or even top two, like on a straightening board, and you get raised when you're out of position and you don't know if you're good or not. And like, maybe your opponent is overvaluing like two pair, or they're just like making a stop raise and they're going to check it back. So you call, making it look like you're going to call. You have some equity to improve. And then a lot of times your hand, if it's good, will not face another bet. It will just go check, check. And then sometimes if the opponent bets, we can make a tough fold. Here it is a little bit different though, because your bluff catching, I assume, turn here. And now the river doesn't really change anything. So now it's a situation where you really have to hope that the opponent is bluffing, king, queen off here and continuing on with a bluff at the end. So if you called the turn, could you make a case for calling the river because you think that's in her range? Yeah, it makes sense. Do I necessarily agree with that? Maybe not. You know what I mean? I mean, you're getting like almost 3-1 here, but you really are just praying that she's got like king queen with the spade here. And I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I did tank for a pretty long time, but ultimately, I guess like the reasoning that I used is that or what I was thinking was that like a lot of live players aren't really going like for this like river bet with like ace jack, ace queen. Like I think a lot would find it with like ace queen or ace king, but a lot
Right.
just aren't betting like top pair,
No, I
big
agree,
pair.
especially with middle pair pairs. I 100% agree with you that that is definitely the case. Graham Wheelock says, it's funny. I think this lady has queens, kings with spade a lot. I think he might have been talking about on the turn, but I don't think that that's the case now on the river. All those hands get checked back. I do agree with you that this is going to kick back like a lot of ace queen and stuff like that probably aren't going to be bet. And, so when she does bet, she's really like, hey, I have a boat or I flop the flush. I get that, especially if 10x is not betting. Still doesn't mean that it's called, though. I guess.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I thought she was representing stronger than single pair. I didn't think she was betting 10x on the turn unless it was like 10x with a spade because I do think she's calling preflop with that. Um, and I mean, ultimately, I just decided to just call
You
after like
did
a
call.
4 minute tank. Yeah, I ended up calling. Yeah. The table looked at me like I had like four heads. It looked ridiculous, but I mean, she ended up saying, "Good call, you win," and just mucked her hand. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
I didn't
interesting.
make her show.
Well, again, like I said, if you call the turn, you have to assume that she has she has those bluffing hands. So it would kind of make sense, I guess, to call the river sometimes. This is just a very underbluff line in a three bet pot. The reason being, though, because of the fact that it's an ace high board, and yeah, I could actually see folding the turn here. I think that the more I look at this, the more I think that this might be a fold on the turn.
What hands would you call down with in the river?
Well, it's good that you don't have a spade in it, right? It's good that you don't
Uh,
have a spade in your hand. So, like, if if you had a hand like ace king with the king of spades or ace queen with the queen of spades, wouldn't it be it would be a worse call down here, right? Because those are the hands you're hoping that she's bluffing with, right? Now, on the flip side to that, it means that she's less likely that she flopped one of those Broadway flushes, but you probably want to not have a spade and not block some of those interior. I mean, you bet so small on the flop. I do wonder. I mean, is there ever possible that she could have peeled with one of the other Broadway gut shots that didn't have a spade in it? Those seem to be overfold, but I think the theory would go you would not want to have a Broadway card in your hand here. So it's better
uh,
for you.
yeah, and also another thing is that I was thinking is I'm not really gonna be barreling. Let's say I had like ace king one spade.
Uh,
Like I'm not gonna be checking turn. I'm probably gonna be doing more betting.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I thought A7 was pretty good as I'd rather not have a Broadway given that like A7 is basically equivalent to Ace King on this river if she's not betting Ace Jack, Ace King, Ace Queen.
Well, yeah, equivalent wise for sure. I mean, you're just either going to have you're going to either have it and she has nothing, or you could have like Jack 10 suited here. I mean, I assume you're just going to fold out on the
Um,
turn, but well, excuse me, Jack 10 trips up, but I mean, say like you had a 10 and then the river wasn't a 10. It would be the same thing, right? Wouldn't it?
I
I mean,
mean,
you'd have to
yeah.
like, it would have to like roll off something different, but I think you see what my point is. Like, it's just it's a pure bluff catcher, but I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.